see a lot of shaft-driven motorcycles these days, from Honda Gold Wings to Harley V-Rods. But in 1923, there was only one, the legendary BMW R32. The awesome R32 put BMW into the motorcycle business for good. Check it out. After World War I, German airplane engine manufacturer BMW wasn't allowed to build aircraft engines as a condition of the Treaty of Versailles. So they built this instead.
This blew them away at the Paris show in 1923. It completely shocked the motorcycle industry.
Imagine the crowd at the Paris Expo getting their first look at this bad boy. In an age of chain or leather belt drives that needed constant adjustment, and of oil-leaking machines that were more or less motorized bicycles, this was a bike from the future. The BMW R32 featured a 500cc two-cylinder horizontally opposed engine and a shaft drive. This thing was off the chart radical.
The R32 is interesting because it was influenced by the school Bauhaus, which was a very minimalistic design in which whatever design was brought into the machine followed the function. And that is the first motorcycle ever designed which followed that mantra.
Unlike many machines of the era, the R32 was built as an integrated design from the ground up. It was the brainchild of BMW's famed airplane engine designer Max Fritz.
At this time in Germany, in the early 20s, we have a lot of small manufacturers, and all these manufacturers bought a lot of parts, the engine there, the frame there, and the gearbox from this company, and they put it together to one motorcycle. But Max Fritz designed it from the front wheel over the engine, the gearbox, the frame, and to the brakes as a whole thing.
I think the unique thing about the R32 is that it was designed by somebody who is an aircraft designer. And if something goes wrong on an aircraft or with a plane engine, you're a dead man. On a motorcycle, to bring that same attention to detail, quality and reliability means that you have a machine which more than any other motorcycle can take you where you need to go safely. And that's very unique for the time.
Though BMW wasn't the first to use a boxer engine, so named for the pistons working in a boxing motion, Max Fritz made a key improvement. Earlier designs placed the cylinders in line with the frame, resulting in uneven cooling. Fritz rotated the engine 90 degrees. This placed both cylinders out into the airstream for better cooling and efficiency.
They hit upon the opposed twin because of its balance in the power pulsing. If you slow down the firing of the V-twin, you'll see that it fires rapidly, bang, bang, and then there's a space of time. And then it fires again very quickly in a space of time. If you slow down the firing of a BMW opposed twin, you'll see that the space between the firings are exactly the same, the timing of the firings, which gives you a very smooth, extremely smooth operation. The optimum design for a two-cylinder engine is opposed.
Another major innovation in the R32 was the shaft drive. The BMW factory experimented with a belt drive on racing bikes before determining that shaft drive was a more reliable way to transmit power to the rear wheel. As the engine spun, so did the shaft, which meshed with the gear in the rear wheel hub. This leading-edge engineering resulted in a very expensive ride. At $575, it was the highest-priced motorcycle in Germany. BMW restorer Greg Vecherich owns a 1925 R32, the third year of production.
They're quite rare machines. Not many BMWs survived World War II. Many of them went in the scrap drive or were pressed into service for the war, so anything pre-war is fairly rare. Compared to a modern motorcycle, it's a bit on the complicated side. So like a Model T, you have two levers over here on the right side, which control This one controls your fuel, and this one controls your air. And of course, you have to set the timing manually. This is your spark advance. So unlike modern motorcycles where you just simply open the throttle and take off, you have to adjust all of this constantly.
The R32 produced 8.5 horses at a top speed of 60 miles per hour. It doesn't sound like much now, but in the early 20s, it was fast enough.
Considering it's a hardtail machine, and all machines of that era were, and it has a cantilever leaf spring in the front, it handles all right, but obviously it's nothing like a modern motorcycle that has actual suspension. Most of the suspension is the air and the tires. So you must be, if you overinflate your tires, you'll jar your teeth right out of your head.
Just over 3,000 R32s rolled off the assembly line in Munich, Germany. All featured the now famous BMW logo, a circle with blue and white quadrants symbolizing a spinning propeller. The R in the R32 is short for the German word Rad, meaning cycle. In the United States, there are only a handful of R32s still running.
It's a head turner, a showstopper. You can't really ride it very far without almost causing accidents with it. People always question you if you stop, but you have to be extremely cautious with it because unlike modern motorcycles, it has terrible brakes. The front drum brake has shoes on it about that wide. And the rear brake, they hadn't figured out how to make a rear brake and a drive shaft work together at that point. And so it has a false rim with a wooden V block with shoe material riveted on it. Not unlike a wagon brake. It's like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna stop today, maybe. So you have to be very careful with it because everyone can outstop you.
The R32 is loaded with innovations both large and small. One screw exposed the valves for ease of maintenance. A toolkit was included, hidden in a compartment behind the gearbox. But one thing the R32 lacked was a key.
It was a different era when people were honest. This key right here simply turns the headlight on and off. There is no ignition switch, and you shut it off by mashing the kill button. And the horn works too.
The R32 was the beginning of the BMW motorcycle legend. This same engine layout lasted nearly 60 years. And BMW still uses shaft drive in most of its models. That's staying power.
It's not only the design of the R32 that's been an enduring motif for BMW for 81 years, but you saw today an R32 on the racetrack riding at quite a high rate of speed, perfectly, cleanly, taking the curves like a modern sport bike would do. That's a legacy of the design that exists even today.
Forged in iron and steeped in motor oil, the history of BMW motorcycles boils down to one thing: the quest for the perfect rider's machine. Today, BMW offers a variety of engine and drivetrain configurations. Its new R1200 RT is the ultimate touring bike. Like the R32, which debuted over 80 years ago, it features shaft drive and a boxer engine. This legacy of extreme innovation inspires true loyalty.
People that are into BMW motorcycles generally tend to be a bit on the fanatical side. You can have my bike when you pry my cold, dead fingers off the handlebars, so to speak. I've got 14 BMWs at this point, and hopefully I'll buy some more before I'm taken off the planet.